on Unit 4, 8, Day 4, we're talking about quadratics and linear factors. So the weekly objective is still the same from last time, that you will know how to identify the linear factors of a parabola. You will understand the transformation rules and apply them to quadratic equations and their parabolas. You will be able to find the linear factors of any quadratic equation and graph the effects of transformation rules on a graph or quadratic equation. So first of all, what are linear factors? They are the two binomial expressions that represent the quadratic function. So they are the factors form of the quadratic equation. Or in other words, they're the intercept form of the standard form. Okay? How can you find linear factors of a quadratic? So you can do this two ways. Factor the standard form, which is basically what we did in the last unit. Or you can graph the equation and find its x-intercepts. Of course, this isn't going to be equivalent. Okay, that means that the standard form and the linear form factors might not be the same because you're missing the value of a. Remember that the intercept form has a, x minus p, and then x minus q. The p and the q are the x-intercepts. The a is the value that you find when you plug in an ordered pair and you look for it. But right now, we're not concerned on finding the equation that's equivalent. We're concerned on only this part right here. Can we find the linear factors, which is these two? Okay, that's what we're going to be concerned about, and that's what we're going to be using by looking at the graphs and the x-intercepts. Erase this. Okay, so we're going to be concentrating on finding the linear factors of the graph. All right, first thing we do is we locate the x-intercept, which in this case is -1. We're going to move the x value over. So when I move it over, it's going to become a +1. Okay, so it's going to be equal to 0. This is another, now this is a double root. And I don't know how to put another, but this is a double root. So we will have to add the exponent on the outside. But since the parabola is opening down, we're going to add a negative in front. So we have a negative in front here, and we do 1. Well, what does the double root really mean? The double root means that there's only one solution, which is the -1. And we're always going to know that's going to be a double root because it sits on the x-axis. Right here, that point right there. Right here. This is my root. This is my double root because it sits there. Another reason is the double root is because in order for you to get a quadratic equation, you have to have two expressions being multiplied. So in this case, it's the same expression multiplied by itself. All right, let's move on to the next slide. All right, so here's another example of one intercept. So here we have a 1. So we locate it is -1. We're going to move it over to the other side. So it's a negative. In order to move it, I do the opposite. So it's going to be a +1. And because there's only one x-intercept, this is called a double root. So we're going to make sure that we put the squared on the outside. And there's my linear factors. So I have 2 of them that are x plus 1, but it's really just 1, -1. Okay, so now we're going to do an example with 2 x-intercepts. So we locate the 2 x-intercepts. The first one right here is a +1. The other one is a +9. We're going to move them to the other side. So this is going to be a -1, I'm sorry. And the other one is going to be a -9. All right, we're going to simplify them over here. So when we simplify them, we're going to put -9. And, -1 because that's the first one. And then we're going to change this to a minus and change it to 9. How did we simplify this? Is because these two right here I can't see that, can I? Those two right there. Oh, still can't see that. Oof. Let's undo that real quick so I can try to figure out what I did wrong. All right, these two are the ones that are going to be simplified. Still not a good color. I don't know what color is going to be good enough for us to see this. Let's just do this. All right, so those two are the ones that became a minus. These two became a minus, right? here we go. That's our factors form of that. So our linear factors are right here, x minus 1 and x minus 9. So all it is that we take the value of the x-intercept, change the sign to make it equal 0, and then we put the two expressions right here simplified. All right, let's try one more time. So we have this one right here, so this is going to be negative 3. This one's going to be a positive 3. All right, we're going to change the sign. So when the first one gets changed, it's going to be a positive. When the second one gets changed, it's going to be a negative 3. All right, we're going to simplify these two. So we're going to change this one to a minus and put 3. And we're going to leave this one as a plus and put 3. And here are my two linear factors. All right, well, here's an example with no x-intercepts. There is no x-intercepts. We can't locate them. So this is a quadratic equation has no linear factors, and it's not factorable. Okay. In order for it to be factorable, in order for it to have linear factors, it must cross the x-axis, or it must sit on the x-axis. It has to have an x-intercept. Okay. All right, we move on to the next one. So we're going to find the two quadratic functions because, like I told you, we don't know the a. All right. We don't know if this is going to be opening up or downward, but we do have the linear factor, so we can have that part out. All right, so we can find the upward and the downward equation for the quadratic. All right, so the first step is that they give you the x-intercept, so you're going to write it as x equals the x value. So here I said x equals negative 1, x equals 3. Now I'm going to move it over on step 2. All right, so the first one is going to be a positive 1. This other one, we're going to have to change this to a minus, and it's going to be a 3. Because it was a positive 3, and I move it over, it's going to be a negative 3. All right, now the third step is to write the equation for opening up. So we just write it the same way we did the other one. Plus 1 minus 3, and that's it. So this is opening up. Now to open it down, all we do is add the negative sign in front of it, and we keep the linear factors the same. Now, like we said, these may not be equivalent to the graph or to the equation because we don't know the value of a, but they will have the same linear factors. They will have the same x-intercepts. And if we're just looking for the linear factors, we're looking to make sure they have the same x-intercepts. Okay, let's do this example right here. So we have x equals 0, x equals 4, because those are the x values. Now we move them over. The x is still going to be x plus 0. And this one right here is going to be a negative 4. So we got to change that plus sign to a minus sign because it's going to move over. All right. We have plus 0 here and minus 4 here. Oops. And 2, 4, 0, 4, and we'll change that to a negative. All right, right here it says rewrite x minus 0 as x. Because x minus 0 is just x, right? So we took that x plus 0 out. Well, it's supposed to be plus, my bad. We take that plus 0 out, and we just have x in front. Okay, so anytime you have anything that goes through the origin, you're automatically going to have an x in front of the parentheses, and you're only going to have one parentheses, which is going to be the other x-intercept. Okay, so we change this to 4, and we change that plus sign to a minus, and we have our linear factors. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so right here, I want you to try these on your own. I'm just going to stop here, and when we come back, I'm going to have the blanks filled out. Well, when you're still going to be watching it, but you know what I mean. Okay, here, your answers. So x plus 5, x minus 5, and then we just add the negative to give you the one that goes down. X minus 2, x minus 7, and we just added the negative in front to say that that's the one for going down. This is what I want you to take note of. I want you to look at this, that here's the first equation. Here's the quadratic equation in standard form, and then here are the linear factors. The linear factors may not be equivalent to the quadratic. Remember, when they're equivalent, they're graphing right on top of each other. I will only see one graph, but they do have the same linear factors. The x-intercepts are the same. So they can be linear factors. The only thing they're missing is the letter A. What is the number right here in the front that will give you the whole entire quadratic equation correctly? Now, if I were to look at this, the only difference is that 1/2. So that 1/2 right here in the front would make these two equivalent to each other. Right? But right now, we're just focused on trying to make sure we can find the linear factors by looking at the x-intercepts, okay? We're not concerned with A so far right now. All right, so now you're going to go and do your independent practice and then do your checkpoint.